Hi everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path, and this is the rest of our trip at Tallarook with Troopy Matt. So you might remember the mountain track video that I uploaded. That was the very first part of this trip, and then from there we kept going across from Mount Hickey and onto the rocky track that starts off pretty gentle and pretty easy going, and not rocky at all despite its name. Overall, look, Tallarook is a great place to get out wheeling. You do have to plan ahead though, as the difficulty in tracks varies markedly. Left or right? Well, we did come here to have fun, and I have got a troopy behind me to pull me out, so, you know, with that in mind, normally, of course, it's not a bad idea to get out and actually have an idea of how deep these might be, but I didn't bother this particular time. So yeah, quite a lot of Tallarook is not terribly difficult wheeling, but there's certainly some tracks in there. Phone track, which I haven't driven, but there's some great videos on phone track by Defender 90 Orkney. He's not uploading videos anymore, but all his content is still there. So if you want to check out phone track at Tallarook, go for your life. Check out his videos. He's done it a few times. Be a long time, I think, before I tackle that one. So moving along, we do get onto the sort of rocky section of rocky track where it starts to descend, and this initial section is just, you know, nice and slow and steady, nothing terribly difficult. Again, it's still morning at this point, so, you know, it's a nice warm up to the day. Now, it was this section that did give me cause to stop and have a bit of a look, mostly because I just wasn't 100% comfortable with how much clearance I might have under my vehicle to get over some of these rocks. So Matt jumped out to give me a spot. So really my approach here is just try and keep the tyres on the high spots, which is going to limit the contact that the underside of your vehicle has with the rocks and everything else. There wasn't really a clear line, so yeah, that was really guiding my choices in terms of where I put the tyres. I really didn't want to drive down the rock step and, you know, have the vehicle lean over to the side and just crunch the bottom of a sill or bottom edge of a door on one of those rocks. A little bit of knocking from the underside of the vehicle, but that's what the bash plates are for, and generally no harm, no foul. And again, some decent sized rocks on the rest of this track, but it was all fairly navigable. And yeah, the rest of rocky track was pretty straightforward. So from there we got onto the main track and then headed via a few joining tracks. I think Bridge Track was one of them. few of these didn't actually have names, but we headed over towards Eastfalls track to ultimately head down to the reservoir. The whole area of Tallarook is just crisscrossed with tracks, and I reckon at least half of them don't have names. This just looked interesting, so we thought, why not, let's head up here. Nice and close to that tree on the left, but not too close. So it was fully expecting to get up the top and find this thing went nowhere, but it did actually keep going, and kept going in the general direction of where we wanted to be heading as well, which was good. Nice little bog hole there. Deep enough on that left side. Now the important thing to note with this one is it's got two big ruts through it, and it is pretty high through the middle. So keeping in mind the Pajero is IFS, Matt's Troopy is obviously solid axle, and he's not running particularly large tyres on that either. I think they're 32s from memory. Certainly no more than 33s, but I think they're 32s. He could certainly run much bigger tyres if he wanted to. And at this point I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because the car's going and the wheels aren't turning. Shows how used I am to not to driving solid axle vehicles. He also doesn't have a diff lock.
These two are spinning. That's yeah, I was looking at the other side going, the wheels aren't even turning, what's going on? These two are spinning.
So we set up for just a quick little snatch recovery. Didn't really need much, just basically get those diffs clear of that centre. There he is. As soon as he comes up, he's under his own steam. Goes to show how easy you can get stuck though. And it wasn't too much longer before we found another one, albeit just a single rut on the left side of the track there, and not as deep as the other one. Considering that it actually hadn't rained for a week or so, it was surprising in parts of Tallarook just how much water was actually laying around and sitting on the track. So no issues with clearance on this one for the Troopy. Quite a lot of Tallarook is like this, lots of bracken fern, plenty of trees, the odd muddy bog hole of sorts. So it is a great place to get out wheeling. I can see why it's so popular. It's also pretty close to Melbourne, which for those based on the north side of Melbourne, it makes it a really easy place to reach. As I said, just keep in mind that, you know, we haven't had rain here in this area for about a week before this particular trip. This was in November, I think, maybe mid or very late November. Very late November, I think, just before it got into December. And here we are turning up onto Eastfalls Rd or Falls Creek Road. Eastfalls Rd, which is the main road on the eastern side of the Tallarook State Forest down to the reservoir. Now along the way there was a little, I didn't film much of that because I filmed that for my other video, so I didn't want to double up on footage for you guys. But there was a little bog hole that had been dug out somewhat more, and the Troopy did just get hung up on that centre diff. Again, just a really simple recovery. So this is down at the reservoir where the overflow from the reservoir flows down and creates the falls. And this is the other track that I didn't take last time.
Yep.
Look at that drop back. You'd think I was driving a manual, wouldn't you? I'm not sure what the driver was doing there. Anyway, we got up. That's the main thing.
So just watching that rock on the left-hand side of the track. Don't want to get some panel damage on that. So he's swinging out wide, same as I did. Bringing it in. Good line. Straighten up.
So from there out of the campground, it's a straight run up Eastfalls Rd. Now I've included this just to show you how much a track can change in a very short space of time. So this is about a month after the very first time I ever went to Tallarook, where we had to winch 3 times and it took us an hour and a half to 2 hours to get up this Eastfalls track, or Westfalls Rd. And this particular time you can see the evidence of where it's been soft and wet, and there's some decent ruts dug out by people having a crack at it when it's been wet. It's certainly more dug up than when we went through, but today it was dry as a bone, very solid, so literally 5 minutes. So that's the difference, you know, something like this that's got a lot of clay and gets very slippery as soon as it's wet. Hour and a half and 3 winches, or 5 minutes in the dry. So although you will have, if you watch my videos, you will have seen this section of Westfalls Rd previously, I thought it was worth including just to see how very, very different a track can be. And that's why you'll find people will say, oh, I drove such and such a track and it was easy. And somebody else will say, well, I drove such and such a track and it was really, really hard, and we had a terrible time trying to get up it. It really comes down to the conditions on the day, because this is probably only 3.5, 4 weeks apart, and 2 very different experiences driving up this track. I remember the first time getting up to this section here and thinking, oh great, we're done, we're out the top now, which wasn't to be. You have this sort of flat section here before you have the last climb, and again, for those of you that saw our other Tallarook video, this just up here was where the final winch was, where we had the motorbike riders coming past us as well. I think we might have actually winched twice. I think we winched a bit and then had to reset and winch a second time from memory. So I think we got up this first bit and just over this first hump here, and then it was on this next section of track where we had to winch. Yeah, this was it. Not today though. this section here as well. I'm pretty sure we winched up as well. That tree just coming up on the right there, I think, was one of our winch spots. So yeah, long section here with the GoPro footage, but I was keen to include the whole of Westfalls Rd just so you can see in the dry what it's like, and you know, compare it to that other video. So from here we've come up that side of Tallarook, and we're now heading on to Freemans track, which leaps off that main Westfalls Rd. And again, Freemans track here, which went on to Wheeler's track as well. Both of those were quite drivable. The odd wet section again, and on Wheeler's track in particular we did run into quite a decent bog hole. So this is the start of Wheeler's track just here, and this track's seasonally closed, and I think as we get along it you'll probably see why. You always wonder with bog holes like this, they can be very deep or they can be quite shallow. Again, just decided to take the plunge and see how we go. Probably would have had a different approach if I didn't have someone with me. Now we've actually stopped here for a fair while. There were 3 vehicles here, with one stuck in that bog hole on the right there that you'll see some more footage of later. They were in there for an hour and a half. So yeah, we elected to take the ruts on the left. Had no desire to test my door seals, so Matt fortunately took some footage for us so you can see from outside the vehicle what this looked like. Decent sized ruts. Does make a difference with IFS for the clearance all the way under, not having the diff sitting down low. And Matt's tyre size there hasn't done him any favours. He's hung up on the centre there on the diffs. He elected to winch out of this one rather than get snatched out of it. Now, I think at this point he's actually not long had his winch. It's a high mount winch, and he's not long had it rebuilt by one of those big 3-letter four-wheel drive stores, and this was his first time using it since the rebuild. And he did notice at this particular time that it didn't seem to be working quite as well as he would have expected, which becomes a lot more relevant later on.
You'll be good from there, mate. So this was option B. After watching a fairly well set up GQ Patrol get stuck here and need 2 cars to pull it out, we opted for option A, the sort of easier line. Anyone wants to come and drive this, I'm happy to point out just exactly where in Tallarook this is, and I'll come and watch.
So after that we headed on the rest of Wheeler's track. Now the guys that we ran into that were stuck in that bog hole did warn us it got a little bit more technical up ahead, but again still pretty drivable. A little rocky section here with some steps. Us about a descent that would be a little bit tricky, and you'll see that coming up. As you can see by the track condition, I'm not sure this track gets a lot of traffic, and being seasonally closed, I guess it gets no traffic for about half the year. Now on the right there, that's a bypass track, which is usually there for a reason. It wasn't even actually clear where that bypass goes. I think it's down the other side of the tree there somewhere. Anyway, just sort of edged up on this, and what we found was, you know, a decent descent with some decent wombat holes and big ruts in it. My real concern in driving this in the Pajero was that with not a lot of down travel with the IFS suspension, that it would, if I tried to drive in those ruts, the car would rock over and the panels would hit on the bank or that rock, and I would end up getting panel damage. So I've elected to try and span the ruts and wombat holes on the right hand side by putting the right hand tyre about halfway up the bank. As you can see, I don't think I'm the first person to try that line. Whether that was the right call or not, I'm really not sure, but end of the day, we got through. So just took it slow and steady, and Matt's actually up on the bank spotting this. Now somewhere along here, probably right about there, the back end has actually slipped down into the rut. That was it there, I think. Yeah, that was it. That was the back end, and then the front end follows suit. And from there, there's no choice, just driving it out. Now, fortunately, Matt got some footage of that, so you get a better view of that as well. Gives you a little more appreciation of it. I think with the benefit of hindsight, I probably would have tried driving the ruts maybe. Maybe driven the rut in that top section and then crossed over in the middle. It was really this big one down the bottom here that was causing me concern.
No, straight.
I was trying to hug that tree, but again, not get so close to it that I'm actually touching it. And there goes the back. and then there's the front.
You're in it.
I think actually those bushskin side steps probably saved me there from doing too much damage.
So Matt's going to bring his Troopy down now. As you hopefully just saw, I elected to span this, staying high on the right as you're coming down, so that's the left from this perspective filming, and span those big holes. He's got the clearance and articulation with his solid axle Troopy. He's going to just drive the ruts, at least that's the plan. So let's see how this goes.
So when I say articulation too, obviously I mean compared to IFS, we all know solid axles on coils will articulate a lot better, and the Troopy is clearly on leafs, but compared to IFS he does have more flex.
Nice. Very nice.
And as you can see, he's barely lifted a wheel coming through there. So the rest of Wheeler's track was fairly easy going. I think there was one more rutted climb out of here. As I said earlier, it doesn't look like this track actually gets a heap of traffic, and sections like this it is fairly well grown into the track. Another couple of wet ruts there. I can only imagine close to winter, just before this gets seasonally closed, it's a very different ball game, or after some rain this track would be markedly different to drive. A shame for us to get down here. It's a good sort of 2.5 hours on the bitumen before we even get here. Now just getting to the end of the Wheelers track here. I think we've got one little climb out of here. Yeah, this is it. So this is all dry and pretty easy going today, but obviously it's been very soft in the past. A little bit of right boot there. Does the job, and we're up and out. And here comes Matt in the Troopy, and I think too this is one of those situations where the wheelbase of the Troopy being pretty long certainly helps him out as well. I think the front wheel was already up before the back wheel even started coming up. So Wheeler's track here comes around to one of the main campgrounds. Now one thing we did find in Tallarook is that there are at least a couple of the main marked campgrounds like this one that have actually been set up with a view to tent camping only. So as you can see there, this is Freemans campground, and it's really well set up if you're a tent camper. So there's a few different car parking spaces, as you can see, the car park area is all bollarded off, and there's picnic tables and fire pits already pre-constructed, and a nice flat area to pitch a tent, but just nowhere to really set up a camper trailer of any sort. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to camp in Tallarook. There are plenty of campsites where you can take a camper trailer. So yeah, after stopping there, by now it's about 3:30 in the afternoon, and of course we said, yeah, let's do one more track, and I had one more penciled in, which was Dam Track, which then turns into Flat Rock Track, and it was a nice little loop off the main access road. We thought, why not? Only probably going to take half an hour. So straight in at the start of Dam Track here, we had this rutted section where some decent ruts had been worn into the track. Again, no doubt wind conditions were quite different to how they were for us today. Once again, the ruts were a little deep for the tyres and the diff on the Troopy, and a quick snatch soon got him clear of those. As far as I can tell, Dam Track is so named because it makes its way down at the end where it turns around. There's a dam.
Still exploring here in Tallarook, and we've come across this little gem where there's no real good lines. You can see there used to be two ruts here, and there was a right in the high side track, but that's been completely dug out. So you can see here, either of these two lines for your right wheel are down quite low, and the other two lines for your left wheel are up quite high, and it's a big bloody step off into a bog hole, while the other wheel's still riding pretty high. Yeah, I mean the rest of this is quite drivable, but yeah, not so sure. And then you got the bank there as well, risking panel damage as your car tips over into the bank. Yep. So there's a plan B. Just back here. And today we're taking plan B on this one. We feel like we've run the gauntlet enough times today and come off pretty good, and it's nearly the end of the day. We don't want to ruin it. So yeah, again, if you want to come and drive this, I'll tell you where it is and come and watch.
So yeah, we made our way around that, as I said there with the note on the screen, really did no justice to that. It was just a vertical drop, and you know, could just see the car leaning over and getting some panel damage. So we're through the end of Dam Track and onto Flat Rock Track, and we thought, yeah, we're just about back out. 10 minutes we'll be on the road and heading home. Little did we know, we found the main obstacle on Flat Rock Track. Again, there was plenty of evidence this has been tackled in the wet by some very eager people. So it starts here, beginning of the climb up, with some pretty decent sized ruts. So in this case, I've opted to avoid the ruts just with the size of the rocks that are sitting in those ruts, and span them where I can. And the further up this track I'm getting, the less I'm actually starting to think it's a good idea, but there's clearly nowhere to turn around. Decent sized rock there on the right. And we've just dropped into the ruts. Managed to climb that section. So we've got this loose rock section here up to a massive section of sheet rock. And by this point I'm really starting to wonder what we've got ahead of us, and thinking it's probably a good time to get out and have a look very shortly. So again, up over this first shelf, and then the main big rock climb in front of us there.
Last track of the day at Tallarook. Here we are on hopefully the last hill. Troopy's currently a little bit hung up there. I've got the pads to this point, and this is what's in front of us. So that left-hand line there for our vehicles is a definite no-go. We're going to try and take this right-hand line up here, span over the top of some of these rocks in the middle of the track, and possibly do a bit of winching, and then get around and up to the top there to that moon rock. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to take our time and do it slow and try and avoid panel damage. This here is the first challenge, this massive big rock step. So I'm going to try and drive that slow and steady, and if no joy, then we'll winch it.
Before the rock, head that way. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. Yeah, keep coming. Yeah, go at that straight and give it a bit of berries, mate. Have you got your rear locker in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to come up any more than that, mate.
That's it, we'll winch from here.
Copy that.
So just that same section again replayed from the GoPro gives you a better idea of what the angles actually felt like inside the car. And really had no interest in breaking a CV, so it just made sense. I think that tree must have been almost planted there to winch off of.
Go for it.
Xeon winch there doing its thing. I must say I've been pretty happy with that.
Keep winching yourself up a bit higher onto that plateau, mate. Alright, should be good from there. I'll come down.
So once we're up there, it was time to drive this last section.
Just go straight, go.
There are rocks all over the
Right
track.
hand down a little bit, right hand down a little bit. Yeah, that's where you wanted to be, so bring it up at that. Left hand down, but then your left hand rear wheel's going to hit it. Keep going at that, keep going. Just about to scrape on the rock slider. Okay, rear wheel's up against the rock now. Spinning like that, that means that that back wheel's going to keep coming over, so give it a little spin. Give it a little bit more and just be gentle on, we'll see. Keep coming. Your back wheel's past it now. Oh, hang on, hang on, hang on. You're held up at the back, give me a sec.
So you can see the rear suspension arm there is just caught on the top edge of the rock.
Okay, what we need to do is move the car over to me a little bit by reversing back a little bit. We just want to come over about 200 mil. Okay, do that, go. When I say straight, straighten up.
The footage really doesn't do justice how steep this was. It's hard work running up and down this hill.
Straight. Your left front's coming up a rock, give it a little bit of berries. Right hand down, right hand down, right hand down. Keep going, keep going, keep going. That's it, that's it. And you're up, you're out.
Good spot, mate. I'll just drive this last section.
Yeah, mate, go for it.
So the plan was for me to park up the top there and then go back and help Matt winch up if he needed to, and get his vehicle up as well. Now here's a replay of that last section from inside the car, or from on the car anyway, from the GoPro. Having a spotter on stuff like this, at least for me, was a huge help, because you really can't see much. I mean, keep in mind, I can't even see what the GoPro is seeing. My view over the front of the car is not that good, because this is mounted right at the top of the windscreen. And as you can see there, it looks like you're driving straight at the bank, basically, when you're actually a fair way from the bank still. And this angle here, again, it's not even necessarily showing it on the GoPro, but the car was leaning a lot to the left, and I was really concerned when that rear tyre was hitting on that rock and spinning that the whole car was just going to jump sideways and I was going to end up pinging into that rock or something like that. So driving stuff like this, having a good spotter outside the vehicle is certainly a huge help. So that's just after we've just reset back to clear that rock, I think. Yeah, that's it. And that's that wheel lift. And we're through and up to the last section. So yeah, nice easy little climb up this last section to park up on top of the rock. And time to head back and see if we can get Matt's Troopy up here as well. So he was hung up on that first climb where I was able to get the Pajero up, but he's just getting hung up on his centre diff. And we couldn't for the life of us figure out why his winch was not doing the job and pulling him up. Being a high mount winch, it should have had more than enough power.
Hello?
Oh, now I've got a copy.
Oh.
You just going to keep winching there?
Yeah, give her another belt.
So with no lockers, front or rear.
I don't understand why your winch isn't pulling you up there, mate.
Just couldn't get enough traction and the winch wasn't doing the job. He's so close
Do you want me to move
getting
it
up
to this
there.
bigger tree maybe? A little bit different angle.
So what was actually happening with his winch was it was drawing so much current that there's heaps of power going into that winch, being a high mount, and his stereo and other dash lights were all going off as he was using the winch and powering it, but the winch itself wasn't producing the
So close,
power.
mate. If you do right hand down, yep, yep, keep going. Leave it on that lock. Winch and accelerate together, right hand down a little. As soon as you come up a bit, right hand down a little.
Just couldn't get the traction.
Easy. The problem is your front left is spinning and your rear right is spinning. You're just not quite getting enough momentum, because when you're accelerating, the winch rope's going slack. Try starting from there, winch in, and get more tension on the winch before you accelerate. I think we need a straighter line for your winch pull.
Certainly had plenty of good goes at trying to get up over this hill, but
See, that's the thing, you're getting up over there, but by the time the rope's kicking in, your tyres are already spinning and you got no traction.
so I went and grabbed some Max tracks to try and help him out and get him a bit more traction. It did help a little bit.
Hang on.
But you can hear that rear right tyre still spinning. So in the end, called it quits, and Matt was able to reverse out of there. So he did take his winch back to the shop, and it seems to be a problem with the windings on the electric motor. It just wasn't developing the power that was needed, because yeah, that should have been able to pull him up over that quite comfortably, but not today. So I headed off from there and followed the rest of Flat Rock track back to the main road, which did take me a little while, and it's not exactly straightforward. Look, this is the end of our Tallarook adventure. It was a really fun day out. We had heaps of fun, so thanks everybody for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like it if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel, really appreciate that, and look forward to seeing you in the next one. I did think about cutting this video in half, so if these are getting a bit too long, let me know in the comments down below. I would have cut it probably just before the Wheelers Flat Rock track, so it would have been probably a 30-minute video and a 20-minute video, with the 20-minute being just this last section. So thanks everybody for watching, as I said, and see you in the next video.